Director of the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency. Our lives, our planet, quite an interesting aspect to protect. We have been speaking about a number of challenges that we face in the region of vulnerability. We have also been speaking about the resources that we have, the surmountable amount of resources, geothermal, wind, solar, but we understand our vulnerability, and we are looking forward for an energy transition that will transform the energy landscape to one that is more sustainable, affordable, climate resilient, improving the lives of our people. In these last 3 days, I must say I'm very pleased to see how member states have been taking on the challenge and moving the needle to become more sustainable for the energy future. As I said in my opening, the kids are watching us, the children are watching us, and we are accountable to them. And they need to have a future that they can be very comfortable in. And I believe we have the right ingredients to support that. I believe we have the right capacity. I believe we have the right tenets. And I'm hoping, sincerely hoping, that we allow the regional approach to take effect sooner than later. Our people depend on us as technocrats. They depend on the policymakers, our politicians, and they depend on the organs, on the institutions of CARICOM to guide the way for that regionalism. So with that, I would like to introduce our Honorable Minister, Kerry Simons, to give his remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I want to just simply say a word of thanks to the CARICOM Secretariat for the very wonderful arrangements that they have put in place. I think that this 7th Sustainable Energy Forum has been an obvious success. It has had some excellent presentations, and I want to congratulate you all for what you've been able to do. COVID-19 perhaps has made this a very difficult period, and in some regards I'm a little bit unhappy because you came, you participated, but you really didn't have a chance to enjoy the beauty of Barbados. And I think that that perhaps is the only aspect of this that makes me a little bit, as I said, a little bit sorrowful. But these are the worst of times, and they're also the best of times. The takeaway has been that we have had a clarion call to arms. I think it is very fortunate that we have been able to have this kind of a session on the heels of COP26. The Conference of the Parties was made to understand in Glasgow that this is seen as an existential threat by those of us small island developing states on the very forefront and the cutting edge of the climate change consequences, and that for our civilization this is a real thing. I think that what we can confidently say coming out of this Caribbean Sustainable Energy Forum is that the region has once again spoken with one voice, and that the region has made significant strides in terms of the quality and the content of the contributions that we have been making to this discussion. I haven't participated in a number of the aspects of it. I'm really quite thrilled and quite pleased that we have been able to signal in the way we have the importance of the renewable energy and the alternatives and energy efficiency initiatives which are taking place in this part of the world. I think that it is also very important for us not just to look at this in the context of the acquisition of renewable energy technology, making sure that we have in place the necessary regulatory frameworks and all that other technical stuff that sometimes goes over the heads of the ordinary man. I think that the magic in this for us in the Caribbean is to be very, very down to earth about it. How does this impact on our society and economy? As I said to you yesterday, you know, even as we are speaking here, we are facing the grim reality that access to, for example, natural gas has skyrocketed through the roof subsequent to the COVID pandemic impacting us. prices are far higher. The demand coming out of Asia and out of Europe is unprecedented, but supply is very limited. The knock-on effect for us is that the access and the quantity that we want is very difficult. Similarly, with commodity prices, we see containers out of Asia, which before COVID, for example, may have been at 3,000, 4,000 United States dollars to source, now at 20 or 30,000 United States dollars to source an empty container to get it into this part of the world. And the fact of the matter is that these things have a consequential effect on our economy. For us as policymakers, we have to find ways of driving prices down. We have to find ways of being more efficient and economically impactful and beneficial to the people that we represent. Renewable energy and energy efficiency is one sure way of us being able to do that. We don't have to import it. We're not subject to the volatility of fossil fuels. We are basically using the natural resources which are available here in the Caribbean. I think it is really a wonderful thing, therefore, that we've started to make certain and clear strides in that direction. And I want to thank, once again, the CARICOM Secretariat for the very good work that they have been doing. It perhaps would be remiss of me, Mr. Moderator, if I did not also, in closing, once again congratulate our awardee, Mr. James Husbands and Solar Dynamics. I think that his entrepreneurship, his leadership regionally, his willingness to embrace technology and demonstrate excellence is a signal not only to us in the Caribbean, but it is a signal to the rest of the world that this region is standing up and being counted in this process. And that is a vitally important symbol and signal to send. So I want to thank you all for participating. I want to wish you all the very best, urge you to keep safe, but most importantly, I want you to keep renewable energy and energy efficiency at the forefront of all that you think about and all that you do.
Thank you very much, Minister. So now we'll just recap on the last 3 days of the forum.
This is the 7th Annual Caribbean Sustainable Energy Forum.
The hosting of this 7th CSEF this year is another testament of the resilience of our people.
So although we continue to speak of sustainable energy, we say so knowing full well that our existence, in fact our very survival, requires nothing less than draconian do-or-die approaches in order to achieve this target.
We all understand that this cannot be done without sacrifice and without the difficult change in mindsets, that the cost of non-action or even of slow action at this point will be paid 100-fold by our children.
Should we be held accountable for the severity of the climate events, we will need to apologize sincerely to our children to start the healing process.
Sustainable development, whether it consists of alternative or renewable energy, must now, and perhaps more than ever, be at the forefront of the process of transformation of our regional economies.
If done judiciously, this will give our countries a chance to build robust, flexible energy systems that are able to survive, to adapt, and in fact, to grow.
Regional prime ministers, premiers, ministers, citizens of this region, don't get distracted. Don't get separated. Don't be divided and devoured. You are stronger together. Pay attention and let's work together. Dependence to resilience, people and partnership. Our resilience depends on it.
This is Session 1. entitled Enabling the Environment, Policy, Regulations and Investment.
So size when it comes to financing is definitely something that one needs to address because a lot of the market looks for larger transactions, larger projects.
This is Session 2, featuring our country profiles.
Our focus in the short term would be to create the enabling environment, very adequate enabling environment, to empower the private sector to make such investments.
I think it's a question of how we organize, prepare ourselves to participate and to support each other. I think the collective approach, where that makes sense, we need to pursue.
This is Session 3, entitled Enabling Implementation, Information Management, Integrated Planning and Project Development.
The solutions we found in Orkney, these are not solutions that can then just be packaged up and taken somewhere else. We need to think about what are the things that we can learn from, what can we use elsewhere, and what do we need to discard.
This is Session 4, featuring our country profiles.
We are really doing this for the people, which is why one of our strategies is to reduce the tariffs by 50% by 2024.
There is a need for a collaborative approach by this region in its efforts to protect the transformation process from being derailed.
We are resilient collectively, not separately.
Through trial and error, together, we will reach a result that we know from overwhelming scientific evidence to be the good one, not only for us, but also for the generations to come and for the world in which they will live.
Thank you so much for participating in such a wonderful recap of what we just experienced in the last 3 days. And I'd like to now introduce our Deputy Secretary General.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Master of Ceremonies, Honorable Minister, participating delegates from across the Caribbean region, those of you who are here with us in Barbados this week, good afternoon to everybody. A closing ceremony is not usually the most exciting part of the program, and therefore I'm sure that those of you whose appetites have been whetted over the past 2.5 days would have wished that there was much more that could have been shared with you. But as it is, every activity that is held must at some point come to an end. And the responsibility is mine on behalf of the community, the Caribbean community, to say a word of thank you to every single one of you who participated, whether you were here physically in Barbados or whether you participated over the internet. I want to take the opportunity as well to thank our host government, the government of Barbados, for so diligently paying attention to the details on our behalf and for working so closely with us to ensure the putting on of such an important event. Ladies and gentlemen, as small island developing states, we are painfully aware of the cost of inaction. In fact, we're also aware of the cost of slow action, and therefore, I would like to submit to you as we close this 7th edition of the Sustainable Environment Forum, the Sustainable Energy Forum, I would like to posit that there is an urgent necessity of now. We cannot afford to wait anymore. We cannot afford to wait any longer before action is taken for us to ensure that we bequeath to our children and the next generation a Caribbean in which we would like to see them live in. It is also important that as energy straddles the nexus of the economy and the environment, that all of the implications related to lives and livelihoods can be addressed as we move forward together. The Caribbean Community Secretariat, as one of the leading agencies in organizing this week's event, would like to indicate its continued commitment to ensuring that the Caribbean rises together. All member states of the Caribbean and all citizens of the Caribbean rise together so that we can be a better region, and that when our leaders speak on the world stage, the action taken locally by our Caribbean member states will in fact buttress the messages that are shared on the international stage. Upon the heels of COP26, it is important that such an event feeds into the discussions and become a part of the ongoing conversation on how we as Caribbean people and the Caribbean community can survive the next few years. As we end the hurricane season for 2021, we're blessed that this year was not as catastrophic as previous years, but it does not mean that there is not danger on the horizon. We have to continue this conversation. We have to ensure that as member countries of the Caribbean community, as small island developing states, our efforts must be towards protecting our environment, and calling upon the international community to support us can only be strengthened if we ourselves are able to show action that we are taking locally and regionally to be able to support the efforts that are being made on the regional level. There has been quite a bit said during the course of this week. There has been a lot of research presented by our respective practitioners. And I do hope that as the conversation continues in the coming months, that we will find the opportunity to tighten up on areas where we believe we need to tighten up for developing an understanding of the way in which this region can rely upon its natural assets to support sustainable development as we move forward. I wish to echo the sentiments of Dr. Gary Jackson in encouraging member states to work with CARICOM and the regional institutions to pick up the pace for implementation of the CARICOM energy policy and executing the Caribbean Sustainable Energy Roadmap and Strategy. This will be an important element of the work that we do, because without the policy framework, I am sure, ladies and gentlemen, you will all agree with me that our efforts may not be as visible as they really ought to be. The common thread over the past 3.5 days has been the value of partnerships, stakeholder engagement, ensuring that, as we said in session 3, every man, woman, and child is not just aware of, but involved in the process of developing sustainable pathways to our development. We are indeed stronger together, and we multiply our capacity, and we build on our strengths for this region to be a better place for us and for our children. Once again, on behalf of the Caribbean Community Secretariat, on behalf of all the organs of CARICOM, I thank all of you for your participation. I bid those of you who are traveling back home a safe travel, and we look forward to continuing to engage you as we develop this region together. I thank you.
This has been the 7th Annual Caribbean Sustainable Energy Forum. From dependence to resilience, fueling our recovery with sustainable energy. Thank you for joining us.